All right, so this is the fun annual program of studies presentation. Extra version this year because we have a lot of changes to add in. I did want to just give a little bit of context. Obviously, this came up tonight on the superintendent's report, and it's on our minds as well, and has been for as long as we've been thinking about the possibility. And I just want to say that at this moment, with the current kind of budget climate that we have in place, the middle high school is very well positioned for open enrollment possibilities. And just to give some context, you know, if you were to consider our marketing materials and things that the school can demonstrate in terms of our ability to attract other individuals, these are all the awards, recognitions, and organizations that our school has become a part of or been recognized by in the last couple of years. This year, that's our Great Schools rating, 9 out of 10. I know some folks have indicated that maybe we're purchasing or finding ways to just get recognized, so I will break down each one of these on subsequent slides to show what the selection criteria is. But we are rated above average, 9 out of 10 by Great Schools ratings. Those are the ones that appear on several realtor sites. If you look at the schools at the bottom, this is where they appear. We are the standout in the region. The closest to us is Conval, which is an 8 out of 10, and then it starts to descend from there. We were recognized for our 2023-2024 data. There's a 2-year lag time as a U.S. News and World Report Best High School. We were rated number 27 in New Hampshire and number 1 in the Greater Keene area. For some context around that, I can't see my notes on here. May I?
Yes, of course.
Can't see them on yours either. That's unfortunate.
Do you need this computer?
Yes, I do. Grab my other
Lots
computer
of
here.
computers around.
So I didn't want to put this on the slide, but just this is public information, and I'm only sharing it to expound upon our school, not to try to put any other school down. But you know, Conval was rated slightly ahead of us on the U.S. News and World Report. They were rated at number 25. Fall Mountain was the next closest, number 29. Milford was number 34. Pinkerton Academy was 36. Hillsborough Deering was 37, Keene was 39, Concord High School was 40, Salem was 41, Monadnock was 45, and Messinic was 52. So I just gave a sampling of different socioeconomic kind of communities as well as regions of the state and all of our closest schools around here. So again, that's another outside organization that is solely based on data. I'll show you how they come up with their rankings. That has ranked us highly and given an award to our school. We were, of course, selected as the 2025 New Hampshire High School of Excellence. I'll talk a little bit more about that. We received a new honor this year from the College Board. That's the AP Honor Roll Silver status. I'll talk about that. And we continue to be a member in good standing of NELMS, the New England League of Middle Schools, accredited for 6 through 12 through NEASC, the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, and a member of New Hampshire Scholars, where we have lots of learners receiving New Hampshire Scholars pathways each year. So this is the School of Excellence selection criteria. There are 5 competencies. Curriculum instruction is a major one, that it's rigorous, relevant, and engaging with the learning environment, that the school organizes community members, ensuring they have a role in building the school's climate and culture. The vision, mission, and goals are clearly articulated, communicated, and guide practice. We have an effective system for utilizing data and information that supports personalization, and there's a culture of empowerment among students, staff, teachers, administration, and community. And each one of the indicators has a rubric like the one listed here. These are all available on their website. This is an initial application process, then a visit to the committee. If the committee in those 2 areas believes, yes, we want to go see your school, they come to the school and do a school visit where they conduct interviews and collect additional information. Then they rate on the rubrics and decide if any school meets the threshold for recognition. If you look on their list of winners, there are many years missing. That's not because schools didn't apply. That's because they didn't have a school that applied that they believed met the criteria. So this is not if there's only one school, they get it. I also know, because I'm on the selection committee this year, for this year's winner, that there were many schools last year that applied, and we were the standout by their neutral criteria. This is the Great Schools rating breakdown of how they rate schools. So they use only the data that's publicly available. There's no process by which I give them any data or by which we can, ratings swamp them or anything like that. They don't even take into account the outside ratings that come into a school. So they look at academic data. They look at both the current standardized test scores as well as the academic progress over a trend period of time. They look at college readiness data, which includes SAT scores, graduation rates, and advanced placement scores, and then they look at the test score ratings as well. So again, this is aggregating outside data, looking for trends, and then rating schools based on that. And then U.S. News and World Reports, Best High Schools Methodology. They have a formula that's published on their website. 30% of the scores are college readiness. That's the proportion of 12th graders who took and earned a qualifying score on at least one AP exam. A qualifying score means a 3 or above in AP World. State assessment proficiency, this is the aggregate scores on the state assessments. Performance is another area they look at, specifically at some subgroups. Underserved student performance, how are groups that are typically underserved scoring in comparison to what would be expected. The college curriculum breadth, this is the number of students who took more than one AP exam, and then the graduation rate. So again, this is nothing that we can sway except doing a good job for our kids. And then the newest honor that we've gotten was the AP Silver Recognition. This is our the kind of rating scales they use and where the little slash lines. So the college culture was a score of 57% for our school. College credit was 30%. College optimization was 5%. And this is the definition of those things. They look at the percent of students in the graduating class who took an AP exam at any point in high school, regardless of score. They look at the number of students who scored a 3+ on any AP exam. And they look at the number of students in the 12th grade class who took 5 or more AP exams in high school where at least one was taken in 9th or 10th grade. So those are pretty rigorous benchmarks, and again, we scored in the silver category in all 3 areas. Now this is, again, not something that is widely given. This was based on 24-25 data. 5,723 high schools across the country, which is 36% of all high schools, received some recognition through this program. If you look at the breakdown, 11% received our category, which is silver. 10% received bronze. 7% received gold, and 8% received platinum. So we're within that top 20% of all high schools in terms of how we're reaching kids on these highly rigorous college-level courses, and this is a large group of kids who wouldn't qualify for the status of the silver honor. And this is not a widely earned award in New Hampshire. This is the entire list of schools in New Hampshire who earned any designation this year. You'll note that we are with silver status. Same as Hollis Brookline High School. And you'll note that we're the only school in this region, with the exception of a private school, the Dublin School, that even earned any recognition whatsoever. So there's a narrative that goes around sometimes that we are not a desirable school, or that there's things here that are not good, or that they're not true. And the consistent outside data continues to support that we are offering a wide range of things for our kids at highly rigorous levels, and our instruction and practices and caring staff are continuing to support them reaching those high levels of achievement. This isn't me saying, I'm literally the one saying it at this moment, but these outside recognitions are other people looking at our data. I don't ever receive any notice from these people, oh, we're looking at your data now, but I do get the results of their data dives, and they consistently tell us that our school is doing really great things. So I just wanted to give that as context. And this is a quick breakdown of some of our AP growth. This is hard to see, but it will be available online as well. You can see English language and composition has consistently grown. That mean score, if it's a 3 or above, means most learners are scoring a 3, and English Lang and Comp is approaching that level. English Lit is at a 3 as of last year. Calculus AB, very difficult exam. We have more kids taking it, 7, which is a lot for a school our size, scoring an average of 3.29. European history, we had 16 last year, scoring an average of 3.06. And United States history, 16 took that one at 3.06 as well. So again, for a school of 340 kids, that's exceptional. At these really difficult courses, which kids have to take anyways, some version of these, we have our learners doing exceptionally well and scoring 3s, 4s, and 5s, which indicates college readiness. And I'll just point out, European history is a 10th grade course. So we have 16 of our 10th graders who signed up for this course and scored, on average at the college level. And this is just a 5-year snapshot of our AP exams and scores. You can see that the number of exams has fluctuated but remains somewhere between 80 and 100. But the percentage of learners scoring 3 or above has, in the last 2 years especially, really taken off. And then another benchmark I just want to mention, our graduation rate, which is a really critical benchmark for a high school to consider. You can see that our 4-year graduation rate in the 24 school year was 97.65%. nearly 10 percentage points higher than the state average, and last year was 95.29%, more than 8 percentage points higher than the state average. Our dropout rate was 1.09% in the 24 school year and 0% last year. And post-secondary enrollment, which the state only collects to mean 2- and 4-year schools, we actually also have the data of learners who go to trade school, so the actual number is closer to 65%. But just 2- and 4-year schools, 54% last year, which was again above the state average. And just for some context, our graduation rate in 2017-18 school year was 84%. And I don't want to leave the middle school out because, again, we have an exceptional middle school. It's just harder to get this type of raw data. But we have some really great draws for families looking for opportunities at the middle level. We have 90-minute blocks for math and English using our existing staffing. That's really exceptional at the middle level. We use high-quality instructional material, HQIM, a program called Eureka Math for math, and Wit and Wisdom for English. We have really exceptional STEM offerings, 5 main areas that we focus on: robotics and automation, flight and space, design and modeling, which is like a 3D printing and engineering design class, medical detectives and app designers, and these are all formal Project Lead the Way courses, which means that they come with intensive types of support and industry-recognized pathways towards high school equivalents, which then can move on into college. Our middle school obviously has access to the high school, which is great. Not a lot of middle schools have that. And what that means is when we have learners who accelerate in a specific area, they can take a course on the high school. We have 24 8th graders taking 9th grade English honors this year and 17, I believe, taking high school Algebra 1 honors. And with language, we've got, I want to say, half of the 8th graders taking level 1 in a language. And we offer 3 in-person live language courses, language programs, Spanish, French, and Chinese. So again, a lot for middle school to offer for a family who's looking and saying, I really want my kid to be pushed in middle school and have opportunities. We have a lot that we give our middle school kids at a very low cost compared to other places in the state. So that's context for me to jump into the goals for this year's program of studies. Number 1, we have to meet the Ed 306 requirements. The good news is that we were significantly ahead on a lot of Ed 306 needs, but we do have to make some tweaks. The second is to continue providing varied learning opportunities to all of our learners. We talk a lot about advanced placement, but we will always make sure that we continue to provide a whole range in the arts, in STEM, and in college prep level courses as well. And then maintaining excellence, which I believe we are at a place of growth and excellence. We need to maintain that growth and continue to provide excellent learning for our kids at both the middle and high school. So with Ed 306, that's the new minimum standards, there's 4 areas that we really had to focus on as a school. One is the approval of our academic standards, which I don't think has been done in quite a while. Ed 306 requires that if the school board doesn't adopt alternative standards, we automatically adopt the state ones, which in some cases are okay, but in some cases they're quite dated. The state health standards are from 2001, just to give you some context. So there's been quite a bit of change in how health education is approached in the last 25 years. We have different standards we'd like to adopt. We have new graduation requirements that are most of which are required by Ed 306, but we are proposing a little bit more than that given what we're seeing. Some new course requirements that go in line with that, and then credits and grade advancement also has changed with the Ed 306 language. Just a quick rundown because these definitions are critically important to some of the things that we're proposing. The state has redefined some of the terms. Competency-based, you can see up here, requires that students advance to new learning opportunities upon they've specifically changed it to the word proficiency. Academic standards is defined more clearly here. I just pulled out some ones that you might hear in the presentation today. Achievement of competencies means a student has demonstrated competencies at a proficient level through a collection of evidence. And again, they define proficiency a little further below. Course of study means a progression of related competencies leading to graduation. Credit means the official record that a student has achieved competency associated with learning opportunities. And they define proficiency as meeting the minimum student performance required to satisfy the achievement of a competency. And then the last one that you'll hear is program. That means a grouping of interrelated activities, opportunities, and resources designed to implement a particular goal. All these terms are really important when we look at some of the language shifts that we're proposing in the program of studies. One of the things you'll notice is that the rules require, if we go back here, that competencies be explicitly stated and measured. The good news is we already have competencies that are explicitly stated. That's the competency statement that our teachers use. This is an example from 7th grade ELA. And measured, we have I can statements at varying levels of proficiency that our teachers already have access to. So we did not have to do anything with this competency work except make sure that they're attached to specific courses. So that's great. Thank you, staff. And you'll see this is a high school chemistry example as well. Our staff have worked incredibly hard over the last 6 or 7 years refining and getting this work done. The standards approval is something that the board has to do, but we have proposed what we are hoping to see as the standards. The rule that this is attached to, it says that the local school board shall require that in each school there is an elementary school curriculum. That's for elementary school. And then on the other side of that, promoting students from one learning level or grade to another based on achievement of competencies in alignment with the district's academic standards as approved, consistent with, and there's the law. So you'll notice that on all of our learning goals, we've listed the standards that these are attached to. These are what we need the board to approve. Otherwise, the competencies don't become valid unless we recode them to new standards. This is a big shift, and this is something that there's new language in the program of studies about. It's attached specifically to some Ed 306 language. It requires that we, quote, promote students from one learning level or grade to another based on achievement of competencies in alignment with the district's academic standards as approved. And remember that achievement of competencies requires that level of proficiency through a collection of evidence. So we are proposing adding 2 pieces of language. The first literally says passing courses, proficiency required. In order to pass a course at any level, learners must demonstrate proficiency on the course competencies, which we call learning goals, assessed in the course, as indicated by an overall proficiency score, overall grade of 2.25 or above. In addition, learners must demonstrate a minimum rating of developing level 2 on each learning goal assessed in the course. The change for this comes right here. We already require each learning goal to be at a developing, but remember that the state's definition is now proficient, which would require level 3 at all learning goals. We're proposing a compromise of 2.25, which mathematically means at least some of the learning goals are at the proficient or mastery level. It's a significant leap to go from developing to proficient on every learning goal in every course. So that's that language, and obviously we're happy to answer any questions about why we're proposing that. And this is another big shift. We have not historically retained learners at the middle level. However, again, there's this shift in requirement that we promote students from one learning level or grade to another based on achievement of competencies, which would suggest that we no longer can promote students to another grade level who have not achieved competencies at the grade level. So we're proposing some language in the program of studies that learners may only advance to the next grade level in the middle school upon the successful completion of the required competencies in their grade level courses, which we would ask to be defined as these 4 main areas: English language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. And if a learner does not pass these courses, they can demonstrate competency on the New Hampshire SAS by scoring level 3 or 4. So there's 2 pathways available to them. And then there's a grid, which I didn't put the whole thing in here, where if different scenarios come up, if a learner doesn't pass just 1 or 2 classes but passes the others, then we try it with summer school if it's available, or have them just repeat the course that didn't meet proficiency. But we tried to propose lots of pathways so it's clear what the outcome is if learners don't pass those core areas at their grade level. Another piece is in the high school section of Ed 306, the new language states that credits shall be awarded for achievement of competencies. Credits shall not be awarded based on time spent achieving these competencies. That's a big shift, mostly with the addition of the second part of that statement. The requirement of tying it to competencies is from the last iteration of Ed 306, but it did not explicitly say you couldn't use seat time, so a lot of schools still did. Now it explicitly says you can't use seat time. So again, this is where we're going back to that same piece of 2.25 or above, passes the course and earns credit. The other thing you'll notice in the program of studies is that each course, we've spent a lot of time redoing it, but each course now lists the competencies that are required for that course in order to earn the credit. So some of them, does this zoom in? Nope. Some of them, like AP European History, just has a list of courses and states that when you competencies, when you complete those competencies, you earn 1.5 credits, and that this fulfills New Hampshire World History requirement. But others, like Civic and Economics Honors, or has a half credit, a bundle of a half credit of competencies here for civics and a bundle of a half credit of competencies here for economics. So that's very explicitly stated now, what the competencies are, how they lead to earning of credit, and on the extension of that, if a learner was to not pass one basket of competencies but would pass the other, now there's partial credits that get awarded, so it does get a little complicated. But again, we've tried to set this up so it's explicitly clear what the competencies are for each credit and how those will be measured. Another change is the alternative credit request process. The new Ed 306 language states, quote, students may demonstrate achievement of competencies and be awarded credit through student demonstration of a collection of evidence or other assessment evidence at a proficient level gained through prior learning opportunities. So essentially what this means is if a student comes in and states, I've done this experience and I think I should earn this credit, we have to judge and weigh whether this experience actually meets the competencies for this credit. So we did not have a process for that type of a request, so we've written one into the new program of studies. It's essentially creating a committee that would review the evidence. The learner would present the evidence, tie it to the specific competencies. A committee would review that work, decide what credit, if any, is awarded, and the appeal process would be to go to the superintendent if there was a concern. So again, you'll see that language in there. That's specifically tied to this part of the Ed 306 revision.
And I'll spend a little time, the next few slides, talking about what this really looks like for our learners for graduation. And on this slide, you'll see the original Ed 306 requirements, and those are still in place for learners who will be graduating in 2027, 2028, and 2029. The new requirements come in to play with the class of 2030, which is crazy really to say. It seems like so far away, but it's our current 8th grade class. So they have the most significant changes, and so I'll just kind of walk you through some of those highlights of the changes. No changes in art or digital literacy. English, I would say English and social studies has the biggest changes. So currently we require 4 years of English, and it's your pretty traditional 9, 10, and then a fiction, nonfiction class. And for English at the high school level, it's 3.5, including a writing class. And we'll talk specifically about what that will look like for students in a little bit, and how we've taken that and kind of combined some of the requirements to make it a little less complicated for learners and also give a clear pathway to graduation. Math, not many changes in math, still need the algebra, but in addition to that, they need a statistics or a data analysis class. So that's new and different. Physical science, biological sciences is the same. History is much different. So history is broken out into a lot of half credits versus a standalone U.S. history and New Hampshire history class. Now those are set up as separate half credit classes. No longer a U.S. and New Hampshire government civics class. The civics is a standalone half credit. History, government, and Constitution of U.S. and New Hampshire is a full credit. So you can see how complicated this can be. And so when our teams were working together, they really were looking at how can we bundle some of these requirements together for our learners so that it would be smoother for them to take, but also can be overlap in some of these requirements. They added a half credit of logic and rhetoric, which you'll see in a little bit, we brought that into the English department, so that will pick up another half credit there in English. Currently now, we do not have a financial literacy requirement. That is added to next year's, to the class of 2030 graduation, sorry. The world history credit increases to 1 credit. Health education is now renamed as health and wellness education. Physical education stays the same. And then the number of electives that are available to learners to meet the Ed 306, the new requirements, is 4, and we have to ensure that learners have an option for career-connected learning. And that can be CTE classes, college classes, extended learning opportunities, job shadowing, things like that. And those are things that we currently already have in place, especially through our Foundations for the Future class and our capstone project.
There's a lot of work for each content area. We worked 6 through 12 on a lot of this, but trying to piece apart the difference between U.S. history, New Hampshire history, civics, and then the difference between those things and the history, government, and Constitution of the U.S. and New Hampshire, which sound like they're the same things. A lot of work looking at standards, kind of thinking about how to define those competencies differently. But again, I'm really pleased with the conversations our staff had, and I think we've got some
Yes,
really
we
great
do.
ways of addressing these without either having to duplicate courses over the next few years, because again, everyone who's currently in high school is that left-hand column of minimum requirements. It's very different, right? So you could end up with a lot of duplicated classes, but thanks to the work of our staff, we've set up a system that's not going to be necessary, and we'll be able to introduce these new courses alongside meeting the current requirements. So again, a lot of creativity went into that.
Yes. I think these are the next two slides, because it really talks about what does that mean for learners for graduation. So this is currently in place through 2029. No changes here. We have the standard diploma and a scholars diploma. And the scholars diploma aligns with the New Hampshire Scholars Program, which David talked about earlier. So no changes here for our learners. What classes they're taking to meet these requirements may shift, or what's available for them to meet the requirements may shift a little bit based on the new requirements, but graduation requirements do not shift. So these are the new graduation requirements
See if I
for
can zoom this in.
I know I can't really zoom in, but for the class of 2030. And I think one of the reasons this looks a little overwhelming is we tried to break it down for learners where we're listing the courses that meet the requirements for graduation. So instead of just saying 4 years of English, we specifically list the English classes that are available to them that they can take to meet the graduation requirements. So just to give them a guide, a pathway, it allows teachers to engage in conversations with learners. It's helpful when they're building their personalized learning plan. School counselors will have to do a lot more tracking of where learners are meeting those competencies. And so this will be a nice guide for that. I think the most significant changes are the number of credits that are required in each of the core academic areas. So English at 4 credits remains the same. Social studies, the requirements are now 4. It's been 3 in the past. Mathematics will be 4 credits to graduate, and science also 4 credits to graduate. Some of that is based on the changes for Ed 306, but others is feedback that we have. It's really important that our students are prepared for whatever their pathway is after they graduate, and to ensure that, it's making sure they're continuing to take those core academic classes. And then so the total number of credits in the standard diploma would go from 23 to 26. Currently, and you'll see on the next slide, our learners can have access. I'll go back. I'll just speak to it now, but I'll highlight it. Okay. So one of the reasons currently our learners graduate with 23 credits is the minimum to get a standard diploma. Our learners here at the high school can get a total of 32.5 credits in the 4 years they're in high school. And as David mentioned earlier, a lot of our learners are starting taking high school classes in middle school. So many of our learners are exceeding 32 credits by the time they graduate. And we require all of our 9th and 10th graders to take 8 credits. We require our juniors to take 7 credits and our seniors to take 6 credits for a total of 29 credits. So we really believe upping our graduation requirements to 26 makes a lot of sense. We didn't want to go any higher because we also do have learners that travel. They go to Keene, Massena, Conval, and we needed to build in some travel time and still make sure that learners can get to those total credits. And then for the Scholars Diploma, all those core areas increase by ½ a credit, so English would be 4.5, Social Studies 4.5, Math 4.5, Science 4.5, which also continues to align with New Hampshire Scholars. And learners would have to have 30 credits to be eligible for the Scholars Diploma, which is still below the 32.5 that our learners at the minimum can earn. Like I said, many of them are coming in with 1, 2, or more high school credits when they come in as a 9th grader, so plenty of opportunity to get to those 30 credits. Some of the shifts for classes, I already talked a little bit about the changes with the ELA course requirements, lots of changes to social studies. I think that's the biggest change and the most complicated change. We are going to require Algebra 2 Part A. Traditionally, in the past, we've offered an Algebra 2 college career prep class. Moving forward, starting in the next year, we're taking that Algebra 2 class and we're breaking it down to an Algebra 2 Part A and an Algebra 2 Part B. All learners, starting with the class of 2030, will be required to take the Algebra 2 Part A. It is what's tested on the state test, the SATs, which is our state test. A big part of the math that our learners see, they'll see in the Algebra 2 Part A. So making sure all of our learners are prepared and have what they need to be successful on the state test, but also for whatever their pathway is after they graduate. And then learners who want to continue in Algebra 2 can take that Algebra 2 Part B. We are required for our learners to have personal finance and a statistics course. You'll notice that some of those credits are embedded in current math classes or new math classes we'll be offering. We are now required to offer computer science, and that is true at the middle school level as well as the high school level. So when looking at our STEM and computer science requirements, we needed to make sure that those were available to all grade levels. I talked a little bit about increasing our science and math to 4 credits, and then our earth science class will move to a physical science class.
Yeah, the state notified us through a testing letter that came out, just updates on testing in, I think, September. I'm looking at Lisa because you probably got this too. And it said, hey, so based on your feedback, we're going to change the science test to be in 10th grade and focus on physical science and biology. That's a big deal because the test has always been 11th grade and has also included earth science. So, and it's effective with this year's freshmen, so we've already lost, this year's freshmen, we've already lost a year of the now only 2 years. So long story short, switching back to physical science is basically is a no-brainer because earth science will not be tested any longer by the state. The only thing I want to mention is that a lot of our shifts on this credit chart, most of them are required. So if you're going through, you'll notice these line up with the requirements. The reason why we would like to push science and math in some more specific directions is we're currently missing opportunities to make sure learners have access to the types of material that then gets assessed on the SAT. So you'll notice that our recommended courses, we can no longer attach courses to grade levels at the high school, but our recommended sequence for courses has them doing fiction, nonfiction, and rhetoric, logic, and writing prior to 11th grade or by 11th grade, because those are the areas that they get heavily tested on the SAT. You'll notice that in math, we're saying algebra, geometry, and then algebra 2A, because those are the areas that are tested on the SAT. In science, we're saying we want 4 classes, 2 of which have to be earth science and biology, or physical science and biology, because those are what are tested on the New Hampshire SAS. So we're trying to also align this better with what the state is then saying we're going to hold kids responsible for by that 11th grade year. And to meet the Ed 306 requirements and accomplish that goal, as Kim said, we have to be adding a little bit more of those 32.5 credit slots for requirements.
And as somebody who works on scheduling a lot, I would say that the majority of our students are taking, 4+ years of math. With block scheduling, they can double up. They're doing the same in science. It's rare to see a senior not take math and science in their schedule. So many of our students are already doing this. And so that's part of this slide. Learners achieve more than they're required. We see that many more credits than the 23 that they are currently required to have. We want to make sure that they have a strong foundation when they graduate, so no matter what their pathway is, they can be successful and take that with them. It's a good use of their time versus having open time. I mean, many of our learners, although they're only required to take 7 junior year or 6 senior year, are taking many more credits than that.
So this is just looking, remember that word program means a collection of experiences, etc. So these are the areas that we are required in each high school within the district. We have 1, but we are required to have each of these program areas and a minimum of 43 total courses. So if you look down the list, we have almost all of these in place already. Logic and rhetoric is one that we're folding in next year with English. The big one that we're missing currently was business education because that was previously not required as a program. So we were able to have kids accessing the 1 or 2 one-off classes they could take at Conval or Messinic. That's no longer appropriate for what this requirement looks like. So to meet those areas, both in terms of the new Ed 306 and the new program, we're introducing a few new courses under the required to add bucket. You'll see we have 3 new business courses that would come online. These are directly tied in with the 4 or 5 areas in Ed 306 that business courses are required to cover in the program. We would have an intro to business course, a business ethics and management course, and a business finance and marketing course. And if you look in the program of studies, you can see the descriptor of competencies that I wrote using just my intuitive skill. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, they're all listed out under there. Of course, a new business teacher would want to make some adjustments, but they're ready to go for next year. We have logic, rhetoric, and writing, which will be replacing the 9th grade recommended course. New Hampshire history and government is a new course. Previously, that was included in U.S. history. For our 4th English requirement, we're introducing a research and public speaking course. 2 major areas that we've identified with our social studies and English teams as areas that all learners could benefit from. It's a nice 12th grade basket of options that can get built in with that. And then, of course, physical science. And then this is the basket of courses that we're introducing that are the optional. We want to add these courses based on our current staffing and the flexibility that Ed 306 would offer. None of these would require additional staff, with the exception of the required STEM in the middle school. So we're looking at for some new U.S. history options. AP African American Studies would be brought online next year. Another world history option would replace the world history honors course, would be retired and replaced with an advanced placement world history. To meet statistics, we would be adding an AP statistics course. Pre-calculus honors would be retired and replaced with advanced placement pre-calculus. We don't have any science advanced placement courses right now, but I have 2 very excited and wonderful science teachers who both are interested in adding one for next year. So we would be adding an AP chemistry option and an AP biology option. Again, we can fit those with current staffing based on retiring other courses to make these fit. A new course, which is marine vertebrate. We've used the title Creatures of the Deep to get kids excited about the class, but it would be covering, I was just told today, it would include lots of marine birds, fish, as well as mammals, so they wouldn't all be creatures necessarily of the deep, but they would interact with the deep. So that's an exciting 1 credit that could go opposite that AP biology class. Our amazing computer science teacher, Mrs. Welsh, is working on 3 courses that she offers now, but getting them to either have a college credit attached or 3 college credits, or industry recognized certification through an assessment program that she has gained access to. So that's Python coding, cybersecurity, and computer science fundamentals. Those are college level, which would give an industry credential or credits. We already talked about breaking Algebra 2 CP into 2 parts, Part A and Part B, and then some new general music offerings. Rock band is the high school general music.
Rock band is the middle school.
Okay, I keep getting those mixed up. Rock band will be the middle school general music offering, so it's replacing general music with this course that's focused on different types of instruments that kids who haven't played before can access and just kind of learn and dabble with. And rock and pop instruments is the more intense high school course where they would get to more close to proficiency by the end of the course. And then an advanced painting program. We've seen our learners, you can look in this case over here when it's full of ceramics projects from our advanced ceramics class. Our kids have huge amounts of talent in ceramics, and that's true in painting as well. If you walk down the hall and look at the lockers, look at some of the painting displays, some kids can't get enough of painting, and they're exceptional at it. So we wanted to add another option there. We're retiring a mural class to put an advanced painting class in its place. So again, I'm not saying this so I can get more staff. I'm saying keep my staff, and we can continue to be creative and meet lots of learner needs.
So some of the classes that we're retiring are English 9 and English 10. So we talked earlier about some of the changes in the English area, English department, and so the new classes will replace these classes. Earth and space science is now physical science, changes there. Chemistry of cooking, that was a half-credit elective that we've run a couple times throughout the last few years, but dwindling interest in that and more interest in the AP chemistry and AP biology area. DNA decoded has had low enrollment. We haven't run that class for a few years, so we're taking that offline. And we say retired, we just take them offline at any point in time. If there becomes a need or an interest in those areas, we can always bring them back. We had a few sustainability courses, once again, low enrollment. We haven't offered them for a few years, so we're taking those offline. unfortunately, and this is the hardest one, construction trades, it will no longer be offered here, so those courses are coming offline. Algebra 2 now becomes the Algebra 2 Part A and Algebra 2 Part B. Career math, 2 years ago we brought on board modeling with math, and so that class has gained a lot of popularity and kind of has some components of the career math, so we're going to take career math offline. Ukulele lab and guitar lab and music instrument lab were some half-credit classes that we offered for the middle school, and David talked a little bit about the changes with the new course with the rock band, and also being down a teacher, we don't have as much flexibility with the electives in the music area, unfortunately. And then the advanced painting will replace the mural design. And then some other high school shifts. So there is a requirement to offer career education. That's part of the Ed 306. We already have a comprehensive program in place, so all freshmen take the Foundations for the Future course. Every week the school counselors are in there doing lessons. It's a great way to transition from 8th to 9th grade and also begin to think about high school career, planning for the future, things you're interested in. And then the capstone, which has been really amazing. If you ever get a chance, I would say to the board to come in, and on one of the days that the capstone students are presenting, it's pretty amazing to hear some of the experiences that they had. And that ties back to their personalized learning plan that they start in freshman year and continue to tweak over their high school career.
And I just want to say for the community members here as well, the capstone is not like just a service project type of capstone. It's literally tied to a career goal. So it could be going and participating in a work experience and coming back and tying that back with their longer term learning plan. It could be going and completing a CTE, Career Technical Education Program, and then coming back and sharing how that experience has set them up for success in the future. It could be going and taking some college courses early and then tying those back to their plan and presenting on how that set them up. So the idea is, this is what I planned in high school. Now I'm a senior. Here's the next step I'm taking senior year. And then I present on terms of how that connects to my next steps. It's really, in some cases, almost like, not spine tingling, but
It's amazing.
It's
just
you know what I'm getting
amazing. Like to hear our learners talk about their experiences and
goosebumps, that was the word.
Yeah.
It gives you goosebumps listening to some of them.
and what they'll take away and how it ties into their plans for after high school. It's amazing. There's the removal of grade level requirements and only now recommendations. So you'll see in the program of studies recommended for learners in grade 9 through 12 or 9 and 10, but that we can no longer hold that as a requirement. Like you can only take this as a 9th grader, so there's more flexibility with when learners are taking classes. We have to have, there's more clarification of competency prereqs where appropriate. PE, a clarified pathway from general PE to specialized options, and that's talking about like the foundational PE class to personal fitness to team sports. Some changes with how learners can access credit for varsity sport that can only be in place of the traditional physical education class because it's based on the competencies. So they cannot receive credit for like the personal fitness or team sports through a varsity sport. So those are big changes for beginning with the class of 2030. So we have some time to work with our learners. And then alternative learning plans changed to recommendation for process due to Ed 306 language. So that's changed too. And then some changes for programming for middle school learners. I mean, we saw some changes last year when we moved to the block for English and math, but definitely some changes in even the sequencing for 8th graders who are going to take high school classes, what that will look like, what will be available to them, and then also the electives that are available to them to take. But I think most specifically it's in the STEM computer science area. We had to spend a lot of time figuring out the sequencing because they're required to have access to computer science in the middle school and access to STEM classes. So those have now, traditionally in the past, they've just been a basket of options that learners could choose from, and now they're very specific based on the grade level. And then I think this is just a highlight of Ed 306.
For the middle school.
For the middle school. So increased focus on, for the social studies For the middle schools, an increased focus on civics and genocide studies. English, no, we have the Wit and Wisdom, which meets the science of reading, which is now a requirement for Ed 306. There's no revisions to math. We have Eureka Math, which meets the requirements. No changes to science because our learning goals are already aligned with NGSS, which is the next generation science standards.
You got it.
Okay, good. STEM, that I mentioned that before, that's our biggest change for making sure we have that computer science, and they're required to have 1 STEM per grade level. No revisions to art, no changes for PE and wellness because the middle school is already set up to include that wellness piece. And then career education, we are in the classrooms, school counselors are in the classroom where Ashley Hannaford is, 6th grade every week and 7th and 8th grade every other week. And she does the career education through her comprehensive counseling program. I think that's it.
Yep, so this, I just put this back at the end, just going to put it out there. I consistently said every chance I get, I will put it out. There it is again. There's a lot of information to absorb here, but not as much as it could have been. And I feel really good about where we hopefully will continue to go. I feel good about where we've been. I know the areas where we still need growth, and again, we're trying to make some adjustment in the areas of mathematics, pushing learners to access more mathematics courses, continuing to embed lots of highly rigorous opportunities for kids, and increase expectations where it's appropriate. But we fully expect that assuming we continue to get the support that we need to move forward, that we will continue to add to our little collage here in the coming years. But the program of studies reflects all those goals I kind of mentioned at the beginning. Programming, a diverse range of programming options, different types of experiences that kids can participate in, checking the boxes for Ed 306 in a meaningful way, not just because we have to, and then of course continuing to create a culture of excellence for our kids. So that's it. That's all we have.
That's it.
That's it.
Cool. So I'll start. I'm taken aback at how forward-thinking you've adapted to the Ed 306s. I don't know of another school district as prepared as this, both for it in our competency-based training that we started in 2017 and 18, and kept with and fought through. Most districts decided a hybrid model, if anything, and are not in this prepared state. That we are in a position to do this with a minimum of hiring new staff is phenomenal. To be able to have such well-trained staff and have such creative staff to say, oh, I can pivot here now. Cool. Okay. Because that's when you kept listing all those classes and all those directions, and I could see the staff behind that saying, well, you know what, my degree covers this too. Let me do some more and get there too. So this is really exceptional. This is unusual, and I cannot say enough. This is cool. Just the listing of the courses and how you're adapting to Ed 306 while people are still, going like that. This is an exceptional direction. I am really taken aback at how forward-thinking and positive thinking you are with something that, with the Ed 306s, that did not take educators in mind when they were written, that did not take reasonable class sizes in mind, that did not take school board, dealing with taxpayers in mind. There was a lot of discussion happening back and forth with these models, and we have to live with them for the next 10 years. And so that you're coming in straight out of the gate while others are still barely reading them through is exceptional. Really, really exceptional. Thank you both for this, and your whole staff. This is incredibly unusual. So, well done.
Thank you.
If it's okay, just to ditto what you just said, is I'm with this discussion at a different level. It might be no one else.
Yeah.
Yeah. But certainly it is rare. And Yeah, the staff innovation. You have developed years ago a culture of collaboration, and as a result, you got to a culture of innovation, and it just changes like that. It's amazing.
And a lot of people didn't put together that when the deliberative happened last year and the vote happened in March and we had $3 million cut from the budget and lost the TTE program, a lot of people didn't put together that at the same time Ed 306 was put in place, which truly threw our education system into a tornado and our teaching staff into a tornado of what's expected of me now. And costs them more, because now people have to pay more for certification, and they have to, like, what this did, that would have been enough. The Ed 306s would have been plenty to throw our system into disarray. I really can't even believe you guys did this, honest to God. I can't even believe you guys have done this with our staff to come out of this and say, here's now what I can do.
And I will put the credit to every person who works in this building. I mean, I said a couple meetings ago, I don't exaggerate and I don't lie, and that's true about the people who work here. You know, they care deeply about the work they do with this community's children, and they look at a challenge like this, and they didn't love it. I mean, nobody looked at this when I said, okay, we're now going to spend the year like rebundling our courses and revisioning what learning looks, but they did it, and they did it collaboratively, and they spent PD days together doing this. And sometimes they didn't like what the outcomes were, but they also understood that it was in the best interest of learning, and it was part of their job for kids. And we have so much that we've gained, and we have so much we could lose, you know, and this conversation should be a good reminder of that fact, that this is an exceptional district, and this is an exceptional school. And that's the credit to all the people who spend time, you know, including members of the board who have really invested over the last many years trying to build programs to keep staff and support kids. There's a lot there that's made this possible. And we should protect that. It's precious and it's not common.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to go on, I'm really taken aback, but one of the pieces was, how many of those had this computer science element and the STEM element that are newly needed, and directions, and thanks to Millipore, we get a grant at the right time to be able to give professional development right now to 3 teachers to be able to meet these needs and offer these courses. 3
teachers who jumped in and are now doing 120 to 150 hours of PD now while they're doing the rest of their job. It's exceptional.
Yeah. So the stuff you're doing right now, like you're catching everything now. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Really cool.
So David, I think I took from your presentation that largely you're doing this without new staff. Are there some areas like financial literacy, for example, or where you do have to add staffing, or are you completely?
No, I mean, we've retooled some existing, because we already have competencies set and our staff understand how to bundle those together. They rebundled a couple of courses and said, now that we've added these elements, this meets financial literacy. So our career math course and our modeling with
Consumer math.
our consumer math course and our financial algebra course will meet the personal finance, and our modeling with math and our AP statistics will meet the statistical analysis course. So they've already done that work with existing staff. The only areas that we have requested additional staff, one is a returning of a position that we never thought should be cut but had to cut, which is the middle school STEM position because of the computer science requirement at the middle level now. And the other is business, because we used to have multiple business teachers 10 years ago, and we eliminated them one after another when it wasn't required, and now we need one back because we have to have a business program. Those are the only things that the Ed 306 kind of forced onto us. Other positions are that we're eliminating construction and using that to add back something else in the middle school and high school. So others have been shifts, but everything on the list, with the exception of business and the computer science, is stuff that we're doing with existing staff and kind of retooling the courses we have.
Okay, but in those 2 areas, obviously you have to do something.
Correct.
You mentioned that if we get a chance, that it would be really valuable to come in and see a capstone presentation. How can we find out about that?
We can start.
Sending you the information.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That would be great.
Yeah, the kids would love that.
Yeah, there's one this Wednesday, I know that.
Short notice, but.
Yeah, short notice, but it is happening at like 9:30. But they usually happen this time of year 2 to 3 times a month. So
Okay.
yeah, we definitely can get you that information.
Okay. I know last time we had a similar discussion, I was like kind of, harsh. But I've got to say, every single concern I had, you've met. I mean, U.S. News and World Reports, that's what the guidance counselors where my daughter went to high school used to help the students understand where they had a good fit applying to college. And also they're pretty objective because they don't take funding from anyone.
Right.
So the fact we're so well placed is really great to know, and I'm glad that you found that out and put that up, that we can see, wow, we're already doing great with them. And I also think that some of the concerns in the community that maybe we weren't doing as well in math and science and reading, that you've addressed that and you've got an action plan. And also, am I mistaken, but don't AP classes give you college credit?
If you score 3 or above, 4 is a definite safe bet in almost every school. 3 is the minimum. So any kid who scores a 3 is considered college ready for that
Great.
course.
So that would save families money on
Correct.
college tuition. So that's
Correct.
super too. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed. You did a great job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I would say save families money without, cost to the community, because it's replacing courses they have to take in high school anyways. So AP language and composition replaces an English class that kids would be taking anyways. The AP history is replacing either a world or US. We now have AP government, which we didn't have last year. That's already running this year. That replaces the civics class. So this is not coming at, costing the taxpayers a transfer of money from one group to another. This is simply saying we have these courses, let's offer them with this AP level instead, have our learners take an assessment, and then they get, again, early college credits out of the way.
That's great.
And ditto with, we have teachers who can offer early college if they have a master's degree in the content area. Again, that doesn't come at any cost to the community. It's just that teacher doing some extra work so that kids can then get a direct college credit through the community college system. We have some of those as well.
Great. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat too much what's been said. I'm definitely impressed and kind of repeat what everyone's hit on here. And I'll say, as far as the awards, they're impressive and definitely legitimate. And I know that people do question them, right? They do question them. And we'll take other data, right? We do review other data as well, right? We know, we look at our test scores, extensively, and we're trying to make them better, right? And I don't think that's anything we hide, where I think,
Yeah.
to me, to your credit and our credit, we're as transparent about those things that we're trying to improve, as well as, the recognition that we get here. And I think the conversation that, needs to happen is, focusing on the test scores is certainly something that people do, and as do we, right? They are a data point as to how our school is doing. But I look at it like with kids, right? When we evaluate our kids for how they're doing in school, I challenge any parent to be like, well, what are your kids' SAS scores? What were your kids' SAS scores last year? That's not how a parent evaluates like the school. And I'd hate to put people on the spot, but I'd like to go to all of you and say, what's your kid's score in science last year? Probably don't know, right? I do. I'm obsessed with this stuff. They get punished if they're not a 3, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, I look at it that way, and we've had experience, and I do look at that stuff, right? And it's like, I remember certain days. It's like, well, that was after that kid was sick for 2 weeks and just came back to school and took a test, and the next year the score was better. Anyways, I do think it's important that everyone evaluate the school as a whole. So sure, take a look at this. That's a piece of data. Take a look at the test scores. That's a piece of data. Talk to students, right? That's a piece of data. And that's, personally how I do it as a parent. I'm certainly not judging the school and whether I want to send my kid here on what their test score is. I'm looking at their growth. I'm looking at how happy they are. I'm looking at how safe they are. And, all of those things are, to me, more important than this. This provides some, objective evidence of that. But I hope that people look at it that way And, just as we don't cherry pick, oh, we're doing this, we look at, the compilation of all the data in order to evaluate our school. And again, there's things that we can improve, and I know that there are things that we wish we were better at, and there are things we're trying to improve on. And that'll always be the case. So I said more than I wanted to there, so I'll move on to, I guess, a specific question that I had during the presentation about proficiency, because I saw that change there, and it was like, in my mind, I have kids that go here, so I know the grades, and I know that 3 is proficient, and it's hard to get a 3. I sit there, I do the homework, I see how much they're doing, I see the rigor that goes into the work for a 3, and I was like, wow. My first thought was, if everyone needs to get a 3, that a lot of kids won't be moving on. A 3 is, an achievement. I'm just wondering about how you arrived at that kind of 2.25 number, kind of what impact you think it's going to have, and how we're going to communicate it. And I'm guessing you had a lot of conversations about that.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it should be a 3 if we were
Yeah.
sticking to the letter of, and only a 3 because 3 is defined as proficient, and that's what the language is. If you look at our learning goal, this computer is
Use the mouse.
uncooperative.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
The owner of the broke it.
Okay, it's getting, okay.
You gotta put the mouse on like a notebook or something to make it work.
Okay, so if you look at this, proficient for us is that level 3 column. So you're exactly right. Realistically, it should say every learning goal assessed is at proficient. I don't know that that would be true for most people, because we're talking every subject matter that they take. So you're talking about like a Leonardo da Vinci, who's an artist, a mathematician, a scientist. Like, that's not how most people are. Most people can strive and work and develop in most areas, and then there's some areas that they can push and really get to a proficient level. And with time, if all somebody does is focus on something, of course, anybody can continue to show growth. But we don't have unlimited time, and we don't have a bunch of Leonardo da Vinci's who want to just spend all their time doing everything. So we looked at, is there a mathematical kind of, if we know every learning goal has to at least be developing, because that's currently the case. Currently, in our current system of how we award credit, everything has to be at least level 2 developing. So we had conversation around, is there some avenue where you can look at mathematical and say, okay, every kid is still at a 2 on every learning goal, and at least something or some basket of these other learning goals would be proficient, so you know that kids are at least generally moving in that direction. 2.5 would be probably more mathematically safe because you're now rounding up, right? You're over that halfway mark, but that still felt like it was probably a bit much. So that's where we kind of settled. We split the difference basically between the two. Is it mathematically sound? Not really, but it's at least showing a movement in that direction, and it feels reasonable. That if you're a learner who's really working in a class and it's not an area that you have a lot of strength, that you're at least picking some areas in that course to move into the proficient or mastery level and showing that you're moving towards that proficient level. So that's my roundabout way of saying we split the difference to try to make it reasonable for kids.
It's fine, it's what has to happen sometimes.
Yeah. In terms of communication, when we shifted to everything being developing level 2, we just started sending a lot of stuff out that had that bolded. As a reminder, if you're looking at your learners' grades, make sure you're seeing this. We would do that again with this shift, just to make it really clear.
All right, thank you.
Christine, did you?
Yeah, well, Chris asked my question, which is a thank you. And I know we're going to look at this a little bit later in the meeting, but we do have a list of the class studies that are, or we have a list of the classes that are proposed for next year. And for those of you who are wondering sort of how this all actually fits together, you just heard an amazing presentation about the why and what we're going to achieve. But then to see sort of the frosting on the cake is the actual list of classes. And I mean, I was reading this today at my table, and I'm like, this is a school I want to go to. I want to take these classes. Like, these business classes, they're amazing. So to make these classes appeal to learners and meet the requirements is fantastic, and to have such a broad offering is fantastic. And I did also note, of course, we do not offer construction trade here anymore, but I noticed that it appears that it will be offered within our region,
Correct.
which is fantastic, and will help save time for hopefully the learners to come back to their home school district. So again, fantastic job, and these classes that our learners are being offered are amazing, and you know, I did offer some sneak peeks today to some people who were in my house, and they were very excited, so it's cool. Some shout outs, hey, look at this.
And I think what you said, Christine, too, is also important to note, which is thanks to the work of our counseling team and our partnerships that have been built, even if we don't have a program here, they do a really nice job either finding another school where we can extend that partnership, or as happened this year, when we found a completely different organization, Advanced Technical Schooling, to give electronics lessons to kids. Like, they're really expert at finding the things that fit with the learner's pathway and not at a huge additional cost from what would already have been done. So that's another benefit that I would tout about us being a great place for people to land in an open enrollment world, is we have counselors who are really expert at making those connections for kids. And you don't always see that either. We didn't see it here even 5 years ago. You know, it's been a transformation in that area of our school as well. So it's a really good point.
I'd just like to add a couple statements, not questions, well, maybe one question. But this, I looked at the list for the silver medal for AP, and I know all those districts, and I know their, I know their demographics, and also noticed that there are several private schools on there. And I go back to thinking, it was years ago, we were having conversations about making sure that our school would be a magnet school, and that we would need to be a school that was comparable to some of those private schools in different ways, and some of these, I have had experience at Exeter and a couple of these other, we know Hollis Brookline and Londonderry, and so Academy of Science and Design, that charter school over on the coast. For us to be on this list is pretty great for a variety of reasons, and just to know that we're just beginning, it's pretty fantastic. So good job, everyone who's been involved in that. Along with this, again, not adding teachers, not adding staff, but yet adding 6 more advanced placement courses for next year. That's a big deal. Like, that's not easy to do. And so, and it takes willingness as well. I'm especially excited about, being a math person, I like the AP courses that you have in math and science, and so that's fantastic, and that's great. I am very excited about the AP African American Studies. I don't know a school that offers that.
There's only one in the state.
Okay. So that's
Wyndham, actually.
Wyndham, yep, absolutely. Okay, so that's really great, and I know that, I believe, my understanding is that the individual who would be teaching that is also a middle school teacher.
Correct.
Who has the certification.
Correct.
And has this.
Who has obtained the certification because she wants to also teach in the high school wherever she can, to kind of do both worlds, and she wanted this class in particular.
Yeah.
So she's done the extra work and paid the many fees just to get that endorsement added on and complete her coursework and things like
So in
that.
addition to the children being able to take courses
Right.
up in the high school, we have our professionals able to say, I want to keep growing, and we have an opportunity to do so. And at the same time, it helps in a cyclical way our children and our community grow as well.
And this goes back to, and I don't know that this was intentional, but back when this middle and high school started the process of merging together, the synergies that has unlocked, this is a great example of that, right? We have middle school kids a whole class worth, 24, 25 kids, taking English 9 honors, that's freeing up a block for a middle school teacher, and that middle school teacher says, can I teach a high school class in exchange? I would love to teach this AP class, right? So you get this synergy of professionals. This is why, part of why we're also able to offer so many things. We've got our teachers who are teaching in both grade spans based on interest. That didn't used to happen. So it goes back to, again, and I don't know, I was a teacher back when this move started. I don't know if it was intentional to, in 10 years, hope that things synergized this way, but they did. It's another benefit of this building functioning as one kind of collective that serves the needs of kids. We can make these swaps where it makes the most sense for kids and their needs and for staff.
Before we go to public comments, unless there's more board, I was on my phone just checking the date. This also happens to be National School Counselor Week, I understand. And so, first of all, really, Kim, kudos to you and your team for putting this together and the work you guys did. It's huge, and it shows. And this was incredible work. And so thank you for everything.
Pass that message along.
Yeah. All right, is the board ready to open up to public comments?
Does Charlie have anything?
What?
Charlie, is he here?
Oh, yes, Charlie, I'm sorry, thank you so much, Christine. Charlie, would you like to add something?
Charlie, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Okay. Is he chatting anything? No?
Something on Charlie's end. I'm not sure what.
Okay.
So.
All right. We'll come back after more comments. So I think we'll open it up to public comments. Is there anybody from the floor that would like to comment on the program of studies?
Phenomenal.
Thank you.
All of your presentation.
Hang on.
Thank you.
Kathy, you have to have a microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They can't hear you.
Name, please.
The presentation was phenomenal. The opportunities that our kids are having in these schools, it's just wonderful. I just wish there were more people here listening to this. Thank you.
And that's Kathy Kozlowski from Jaffrey. Ringe.
I'll go again, since I asked for you to move the public comment to afterwards. Thank you for the presentation. It was really amazing. I think I'm really excited about all of the personalized opportunities that will be available for our learners moving forward. I can tell that a lot of work went into this, and it's really exciting to see everything come together as it has. I just had a few questions. David, could you really quickly explain what Ed 306 is? Because I've gotten a lot of questions. People are like, what the heck is that?
Mm-hmm.
So it might be good, while this is being recorded, to kind of just get that out there.
Am I allowed to answer?
Please.
Okay. So Ed 306 is the minimum standards for public schools in New Hampshire, and it's refreshed, I guess, or in this case, rewritten every 10 years. So it goes through a process of revision, supposed to be a lot of input from different stakeholders. That happened in different ways this time around, but the conclusion was a rewrite of almost the entire body of this regulation. So these are the standards that schools have to follow in order to remain, in compliance with the law and to demonstrate that we are doing what the state says is the minimum education for kids. We have to certify that every 2 years. So we just had the certification for the last year of the old Ed 306, and 2 years from this past January, we'll do the first round of certification for the new ones. And so that's where we have to demonstrate that we've made adjustments to credits, made sure we have the program areas that we're required to have, shown how we're meeting the competency goals, things like that. So there's the rules, which are the Ed 306, and then the follow-up compliance checks, which happen every 2 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My second question is, will this presentation be linked online so that we can pilfer your information and help get that out there?
Say that one more time, Alicia, here.
Can you link your amazing presentation online somewhere? I didn't look like it was linked in the agenda, but it would be really helpful if we could like see David's presentation so we can.
Can we add it as one of the
Access
side presentations?
The video will be added as a side presentation, a standalone presentation.
But can you do like the PowerPoint file? It's so much easier than having to.
If I
Can-
send that to Wendy, would
It's-
that be okay?
It's linked in our copy of the presentation.
Yeah, it is linked, I think.
In the agenda?
Yes,
probably
it's
just
still on the
Okay.
digital agenda.
Maybe I looked at it before it was linked.
It was updated a couple times.
I've added about 15
Okay.
slides since then, so I'll send Wendy the most recent
Perfect.
final version.
There we go.
Including that first slide, please, with the,
Yes.
Yeah.
the different awards, because that's pretty critical.
All right.
Yep.
Allie Marr, Ringe, and I just wanted to sort of piggyback on something you just said, David, and that Lisa had mentioned before. So when you mentioned they certify it every 2 years, so did we technically have 2 years to meet the minimum requirements? How does that work?
No, because they were in effect July 1st of this year, which was, again, a very rapid turnaround time. So the 2-year certification window, or it's the IBAS, Input-Based Accountability System, is a look back. So in 2 years, we have to look back to this January, from 2 Januaries out. So we're technically supposed to be in compliance now, which we mostly are, and then for the vast remainder of the time, we'll be 100% in compliance. So we'll be okay. It's more if you don't get into compliance quickly within that 2-year window of time, then I feel like some schools may be in the position where they're going to have some additional accountability work to do after the next IBAS.
Well, it sounds like from what Lisa said too that we're ahead of the game, so that's great. Congratulations, guys. Thank you for your hard work.
Aaron Quinn, Ringe. I just wanted to make sure that it's really highlighted that the data that supports these hard-earned honors and awards is public data. It's quantifiable. It's out there, and the teachers in this district, in this school, continue to be amazing. And I think these awards really highlight how wonderful you are doing. And thank you for everything. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the floor? Okay. Anybody online?
Nothing.
Charlie? Are you online?
No.
Hi,
I'm
Charlie.
online, but
Yeah, we can
I'm
hear each other.
online, but I'm having problems with my mic.
Well, we hear you loud and clear now. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I just wanted to say that, well, I repeated one of the statements that came from the audience, and that is, how do we get the message out? I'm impressed. It's a very strong message that we have.
Charlie, we lost you again. It sounds like a bad connection.
All right, but what we did hear was how do we get the message out? Yep. Yeah. We will have more talk about what we're doing for deliberative and for future stuff as we go into the board meeting further.
It'd make a wonderful backdrop for right behind where, right behind us, the deliberative.
All right, so if there's no further public comments, we'll go back to the board with John.
I just wanted to point out that the change that's been made this year, where in the school board agenda list, not only are the recordings listed, but the presentations by Tim and David and other people who've come in and made those presentations, there's a separate column on the right-hand side. So you have to go to the SAU website, and you go to school board, and you see agendas, and then under agendas, I think you have to click agendas again, and you have to choose this year. So now you've had to click 4 or 5 times, but once you do that, you scroll down, you get to February 2026, which is, right down towards the bottom, and then the presentations are there.
And you actually go to the previous year too, and you'll get the NEASC and the athletics, but yeah, there's ones in from last May and June in the previous year. So we have quite a few now. Yeah. All right.
Maybe we could do a hot link to like the most recent presentation, put it on the front page.
All right.